Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday. It is the 27th of March. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or this afternoon, this evening. If you found us on YouTube or Rumble, thank you so much for joining us. This week is World Doula Week, and we'll be discussing birth doulas, and we have a lovely lady who is a death doula. So we'll be talking from cradle to the grave, if you like, but showing how you are loved right from the moment you were born and how we can help. So first of all, this morning, I'd really love to introduce the wonderful June Tranmer. Good morning, June. Welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday.
Good morning, Kerry. It's lovely to have you back. And nice to see you all refreshed from your holiday. So yeah, it was brought to my attention just yesterday that it was World Doula Week, and I just went, "Oh, how did I miss that?" Because I trained in acupuncture, well, quite some time ago, and part of my training was to do obstetrics and gynecology, and I was assisting at births throughout, the 90s and the 2000s, really 80s even, perhaps. Can't remember now. My own kids were born in the 80s. I did not have a doula or an independent midwife, and I wished I had. I had a horrendous first birth, really. Well, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Let's put it that way. In the grand scheme of things, I had something of control, but that's just because I'm an incredibly stubborn person. And I felt that, right, I've done it their way, and now I'm going to do it my way with the second one. But at the time, I was just reliant on the community midwives. Now, currently, the situation is that there's very, very a big scarcity of midwives. Lots of people are leaving the health service for various reasons, mostly personal, but largely to do with, the chaos that's going on. And it's very tricky to get, if you want to have a home birth, to actually get someone to come and accompany you. And that's actually one of the safest places to have a baby, in spite of the fact that there's a lot of fear around birth, and there's a lot of people are kind of funneled into, you've got to be safe, you've got to have all the equipment, you've got to have all the checks, you've got to have all the system that's evolved, really not necessarily to protect the mother, I would dare say. Now, I trained with Nikita Starck, and if she was on here, she'd be a lot more forthright about saying all these things, because she's passionate about women having control of their births. And that's why she set up When Push Comes to Shove. And I found her soon after I got interested in the PHA, and I did my extra training with her to get up to date with what the current situation was with birthing. And I was horrified to see that the increase in cesareans that we thought was going to be starting to roll back in the 90s, it's kind of increased more and more and more. So I'm not going to quote numbers because I will be probably accused of saying the wrong thing, and I don't really know what the numbers are, but I do know that there's so many people say to me, "Oh, unfortunately, I ended up with a cesarean. I didn't want one, but I ended up with one." And we have to think about why that happens. And the thing is, we have the lovely Rachel also, who is part of this team, who is also a doula, but she couldn't be here as well. And she had things to say that I've got to quote. Now, Jean-Marc has got his hand up. Do yes. I need to stop for a second?
No, you can carry on, and I can jump in after. It's all about a cesarean, but carry on.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, because we've before you arrived, we've got Emma here who's the end of life doula, so we've got to make time for her. And we've also got some exercise with Robyn. So yeah. So what we've got is what Rachel was saying to me before, because she couldn't join us today. She said, please say that a doula is not a luxury. It's a necessity if you want to understand your birth options and have an experience that differs from the medical model, as well as sharing the wisdom and loving support of a woman who is also a mother often, who has been where you are. Thank you, yes, for what you're doing, she said. And definitely talk about Am I Allowed? Because there's a wonderful book that's been written by one of the mentors for Nikita, one of the people that Nikita values hugely. And Beverley died sadly this year. Well, no, actually at the end of last year now. And Nikita is in the process of writing the next edition of Am I Allowed, which, as the title suggests, that's the question that so many mothers have in their minds is, am I allowed to do this? Well, yeah, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do within reason. And the birth keepers or support people are there to do exactly that, support you in taking your decision about what kind of birth you want. Now, if you want a cesarean, that's a choice that people have. But I think what's happening is people are seeing it as a choice without even exploring all the other choices. And, one of the things that we talk about a lot on here is informed choice. And we feel that you should really have the full range of options available to you and not just feel like that is the most clinical and the most safe and the most organized kind of way to have a baby. It's not necessarily. There are all sorts of complications, and it is major surgery. It's not like we've got a zip down there that we can just open and pull the baby out. It's through all major muscle bodies and through the uterus, and it takes at least 6 weeks to recover. Whereas with a normal vaginal birth, you actually can be up and about, although you should rest. I mean, the 6-week confinement is kind of a guideline that comes down from history that really you need to bond with your baby and be there just relaxing and recovering, because it is labor, and it's not called labor for nothing. It's hard work, but it's not just an easy option is what I'm saying, to have a cesarean. So yeah, and the health carers are there to help and support the parents, says Rachel. Parents are not patients waiting to be told what to do, although a lot of times people feel they must be told what to do because they've kind of abdicated responsibility for their own bodies. And that is one of the things that I'm always going on about, is people need to feel like they're in charge of their own health and well-being, and that goes straight over into labor and to childhood as well, looking after the children. People need support in looking after their children once they've arrived, because let us remember, this is a welcoming of a soul into the earth plane. And on the other end, Emma's going to talk about that, the departure of a soul from their physical body. And this is such an honor to as a health worker to be present at either the incoming or the outgoing. It's something that is a vocation, as Emma will say. And I think it's something we need. I mean, what Nikita's currently saying is we need an army. we need a whole lot of people doing this work, because we just need to actually revere that moment. And it's not just a purely physical function that we're supporting here. It's actually the bringing of a soul into being. And I think what I'd like to share here as well is a little bit about what's currently happening with the planets and the stars, because the babies that are being born right now are quite incredible beings. And I think we need to acknowledge that. And I'm going to pop in Pam Gregory's solar eclipse that's coming up on April the 8th, because we're all being, and a part of the reason so many people are feeling unwell and unbalanced is because of all this planetary activity and solar eclipses and other disturbances amongst under the ground. I've just recently discovered that the ley lines are busy shifting as well. So much is going on that we actually have to deal with. So being still, being centered, being grounded, and getting the support that you need, I think, is the bit of the best advice that we can all give. So I have information about when push comes to shove. If anybody's interested in becoming a doula, that's one of the best trainings in the world, I dare say it. And there's the Artemis Academy now, Artemis Birth Academy, which is a longer training. So there's a little bit of a distinction between a doula, who is someone who accompanies a mother and her partner along their journey during pregnancy and during the birth and afterwards, to support and encourage. Whereas there are also acupuncturists and homeopaths. If Sarah was here, she would be talking about her role as a homeopath during birth. There's birthing kits that you can get to help support your birth, and you need a homeopath on the other end of the phone as well, if they're not in the room with you, just to help navigate through that. So yes, Jean-Marc, do you want to chip in here with the cesarean thing?
Yes. What I've found out many times, talking with different doctors, and at the time it was mainly in France this happening, but I realized also it's happening in UK too. Cesarean was very much in practice because the obstetrician want to have their weekend, so they were scheduling thing. And if they knew the birth can happen on a Saturday and a Sunday, they were performing the cesarean before, right? With a lot of pressure on the mother, right?
Yeah.
And I found out that here also when my wife were going to give a birth, right? This sort of pressure. Now also. It's interesting what you said about giving the choice, but informing the mother and the couple of what the choice they have, born at home, and with on the water bath, or there's so many options can be done. Thing that we never had before, right? I remember in my village, most of the children were born at home, right? Because the next hospital was 4.5 hours drive, and if you got somebody to drive you there. So, but it was a dedication. It's also a heavy weight for the midwife to take this responsibility to give a birth and to follow the mother and at the time of the birth at home, right? Because I had a friend, she starts give birth at home, and the midwife started to panic, and everything went completely into chaos, and she had to jump into the ambulance and go to hospital, right? So it had to be something well organized, because midwife are so much in demand, so much under pressure, and it's a big, also the big thing about midwife, a lot of resigning, a lot changing jobs, because it's a long hours, and I don't think this like most of the care have been looking properly after by the government or recognized as such, right? The thing is also the way we have to educate the couple and the mother and all that. It's you got to the thing which is about, let's try for family. Now I want to try for family. You don't try for family, or you want it or not, right? And also there's a thing also, when I ask mother, I said, what do you want to do? I want to have a baby. And some they said, I want to give a life. It's two different things. Because you realize as a woman you are in power, because you're not giving birth to a baby, you're giving birth to life. And that's where it's very powerful for a woman, because who can give life on this planet? But who can give a baby? Now you got, in a tube. That's another problem you encounter. So yeah, it's that was a bit what. But in the meantime, you see, when you know the fertility starts from the mouth, depend the bacteria you have in the mouth, they will stop you the power of pushing for the extraction of the baby. And that is something where everything needs to start, because we don't talk about this thing. We don't talk about the health of the flora, of the oral flora. We don't talk about it. We bypass that, and we shouldn't, because everything starts from there.
Thank you so much. Right. Shall we go straight over to Emma and have her perspective from the other end? Because I think she has a lot of wisdom and a lot of interesting things to say.
Oh, I will try. Pressure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. So yeah, I think it's really great that we're here together, because we, as you said, describe ourselves as the bookends of life. And we think that I completely get what you're saying about there being issues with birth and things, but I think we do, even though not enough, give more sort of energy to thinking about planning that bookend rather than how we leave this world. And we, as doulas, as end of life doulas, really believe that endings matter, and people should be given the opportunity to kind of do that in a way that honors the life that they have lived. So the first thing I guess to say about our role is that people think it's all about death, and a lot of it is, but a lot of it is also about life. We're all about supporting people to live right up until the moment of death, focus on what quality of life looks like to them, because obviously that's really different for different people. And we find that we always start with listening and asking the big questions, and sometimes it can be quite overwhelming for people who, as you were describing, have been caught up in maybe a lot of treatment and feeling like a patient rather than themselves. And then to be asked questions like, what matters most to you now in this time that you have, can be really overwhelming for people. And then we will take whatever those things are and really try and center them for the person and those around them. So yes, we work with people who have a terminal diagnosis and at the end of life, and that can be from the point of diagnosis. It can be quite early. Sometimes we work with people for many years. Sometimes people get in touch with us when they're fit and well and they want to put plans in place. Advanced planning, for example, is a big part of the work that we do, and then they might come back to us down the line. And we don't just support the person who is dying, we support anybody who is important to them. So the vast majority of the time, we're also supporting family members. Sometimes it's a circle of friends. And I definitely want to say that we recognise that this work is not new. It's probably, as birth doulaing has been going on since human communities began. It's just that we've got a label on it now. But essentially it is any transition in life, I think, and we've got birth and death doulas represented here, but there's also my colleagues a miscarriage doula, any kind of sort of difficult life change, health transition. I think doulas have a role there to be another human being who perhaps has experienced that themselves, who can support you through that. And obviously the experience is different for everybody, but we have a role there. And unfortunately, I think that both of our roles are needed now more than ever. June, you mentioned sort of health systems being very, very stretched, and certainly not pointing fingers at any healthcare professionals who are often doing the best job they can in limited time. But as doulas, I agree, we're not a luxury service, but we do have the luxury of time to spend with people and really get to know them. And I think when people ask what end-of-life doulas do, sometimes they're looking for a really snappy sentence, and I often disappoint them, because I think if you narrow it down too much, it loses the thing that makes our role unique, which is that we are a flexible presence that can look completely different for whoever we're supporting. So I would say we always offer a mix of practical and emotional support and spiritual support, if that's what the person wants. And sometimes people, I think, can turn away from spiritual support and think we mean religious, and we don't, unless that's something the person wants. You know, for me, I think spirituality is about being connected to nature, and whatever that means to somebody that enhances their quality of life, we will centre that, as I say. But we always end up doing a mix of emotional and practical support. And you can imagine that that looks very different for different people, because Sometimes people have a great practical support system around them. They might have family members who've really gone into doing mode to cope with what's happening, but they don't have anybody there to just listen to them. And perhaps they don't feel able to talk to adult children about their fears about death or about receiving care. So having a neutral person to listen to that and then to facilitate sharing that information with the person's permission so everybody is on the same page is part of what we do. Or it might be the other way around. Maybe they've got a great emotional support system, but they're struggling with the practicalities. Unfortunately, there is a lot of admin that comes with the end of life, just at the time that you need it least. So we can help people, as I say, with advanced planning, with documenting their wishes, often in a legally binding way so that they can be followed by healthcare professionals. But that also might be, I was going to say small practical tasks, but I think actually small tasks add up to the big things, right? Because when you have a limited pot of energy at the end of life, things like making a meal, walking the dog, picking the children up from school, if someone's perhaps younger, all take a little bit of that pot. And if we can help with all of those things, then people can use that energy that they have to focus on what matters to them. And I also just want to mention that, so we as End of Life Doula UK, as an organisation, we have over 300 doulas across the UK now. And as well as supporting our members, we also are a central point of contact for people looking for doula support. So we tend to receive 20 to 30 contacts a month from people who are seeking a doula, and then we will have an initial conversation with them about what they're looking for in terms of support, and then we'll match them with a local doula if there is one available, which increasingly there is. I think there's a lot of there's certainly a lot of people doing the training at the moment, so our numbers are shooting up. But as end of life doulas, we don't only do the direct support with people. I think a lot of us try to make I really like that phrase, good trouble, in our communities by talking about these taboo topics. There's some brilliant examples of community festivals that people put on, so there can be spaces to talk about death and dying. We have the Dead Good Festival here in York, where I am. There's Pushing Up Daisies Festival in Hebden Bridge and Todmorden. And they bring together people of all ages to not only talk about death and dying, but maybe it isn't talking that people want to do, maybe it's some kind of creative way of exploring death and dying, but just having a space at all ages, we think is really important. We think kind of the way to become less of a death anxious society is to help people to talk about this at a younger age. And so we're increasingly hoping to work with schools, for example, about taking those opportunities that can come up, I think, for children. I had a good example the other day where we found a dead mouse, and someone I was talking to was saying, you know, the classic of buying a hamster that looks the same as the old hamster if one of a pet dies, and actually supporting parents to take those opportunities to have those conversations with children who are often much better at talking about this than we give them credit for. And then I'll just end, and yeah, I saw in the chat, very, very happy for questions, to say that we're very careful about this, but we are increasingly working with NHS trusts. We're very careful not to lose our unique way of working. So we only partner with organisations when they're sort of empowering us to work in the way that we always work. We don't want to change any of that way of working and have it shrunk down. But we've been really lucky to work in Leeds and South West London now with NHS trusts who've essentially just said, yep, we like the way that you work and we're happy to refer people to your service. So in Leeds, we have a pilot project that's been going there for a couple of years now. We've had over 270 referrals for people, and we are finding, I do think that most of our work happens in the community. A lot of people choose to contact an end-of-life doula because they want to die at home. But there are people who need this support in many different places, in care homes, in hospitals, and I think we should go wherever people need us, to be honest. So I think it's good that we're working in partnership in those areas, and I think the best examples of doula work, you know, people say it takes a village to raise a child, and I think the best examples of end-of-life care, again, it takes a village, it needs everybody pulling together. So sometimes people can have misconceptions about end-of-life doulas, that we're sort of instead of other services, but we're all about collaborative working and working alongside. And we get a lot of feedback from healthcare professionals too, that it actually takes some pressure off of them as well. Yeah, shall I jump into the questions in the chat? Does that work? Yeah, okay, great. Does the NHS pay us? Yes, so we received some pots of funding from the NHS, and all of that money goes to paying doulas to support people. We don't make a profit from those. So some of the doulas do choose to work as volunteers, but the vast majority in our organisation now do choose to be paid. And we did a bit of research a few years ago where we get feedback from people that have been supported by doula about how they feel about paying for the service, because I do understand that it can be quite a difficult, sensitive topic, and we found that most people said that they wanted to pay if they were able to, but we are really, really clear that ability to pay should not be a barrier. I liked what you said, June, about this not being a luxury service. So we fundraise so that we can subsidise support if somebody can't pay themselves, but that also means that our doula pool of doulas are becoming more diverse, because I know when I came into this work, you know, I was quite young and I would not have been able to do this work without some support for myself as well. So I think that's important that we have a diverse membership as well. I'm just looking at the chat, sorry. Are there any legalities to want to die at home? Red tape. Yes, there's red tape everywhere we go, isn't there? I would say one thing with certainly with death and dying and after death as well, that there's less red tape than people imagine sometimes. One of the things we sometimes do as doulas is help people to keep a person's body at home after they've died. I think a lot of people don't realise that's something they can do. They think, you know, you have to immediately ring the funeral director and have that person whisked away. And what we know, my other role is as a psychologist, and we know that sometimes taking that time to be with a person after they've died can be really helpful for grief. Having the person whisked away and not having time to process what's happened can complicate grief in some ways. So we're really about, as you said, saying yes, you are allowed, giving people permission. And another example is which is a really sad one, I think, that I supported a lady in a hospice and her husband had just died, and I could kind of tell that she wanted to do something but that she maybe didn't feel able to say. So asking those questions, you know, what feels right to you to honor what's happened? And she said, well, to be honest, I just want to lie with him, but I don't know if people will think that's weird. And I thought, oh, how awful that, of course, that isn't weird. Like the most human thing in the world to want to lay with somebody that you love. So often, you know, we would never put on to people our beliefs, but you might say to somebody, sometimes people like to do this. Does that feel right to you? And often people will say, oh, yes, I'm really glad you said. I didn't know I was allowed to do that. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of our role.
Yeah, you're so right, Emma. I mean, it's the whole medicalization of our lives. The health service came into existence and transformed a lot of people's lives because they couldn't get any decent health care because they were so poor. So that's one thing. But what's happened, we've gone so far away from life in the community. People used to give birth upstairs in the bedroom.
And
in the
died
house
upstairs in the bedroom.
and died and were laid out in the front room.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who did that, you know, he died at home and they had him in the front room. But that's really unusual. And
well, someone's just said about in Ireland, and I'm glad you raised that point, because we're certainly not saying, a lot of cultures do death and dying a lot better than we do, than white Western cultures. And yeah, including in the UK, there are some people sometimes say, you know, oh, do you support all kinds of communities? And yeah, anybody that wants our support, we do, but plenty of communities don't need our support because they already have doulas, you know, not with the name, but people doing this work in their community. And I think in Ireland is a really good example where you would have children there seeing open caskets from a younger age and having those conversations, which I think is a healthy thing.
Yeah. Instead of the question, where has that family member gone? They're like you say, whisked away. And babies are born in the hospital. It's like mom goes to the hospital and comes back with a baby. Like she's been given a baby in the hospital to bring home. It's so disconnected from normal life. Yes, talking about Ireland, I mean, wakes, the original meaning of a wake was to have the coffin there, and everyone had a drink or two with the person in case they woke up again. That was the origin of it. Am I right, Helen? Kath, somebody.
Yes.
Sorry,
You're right.
yes.
Yes.
My mum
Thank you, the Irish Brigade.
my mum died 2 years ago, and that's exactly what happened. We brought her home. She was in the front room. All the village came in and said goodbye to her, and there's lots of drink and sandwiches. And then I remember she told me a story about many years ago. There was a young woman who apparently died, and she was buried, well, not buried, she was put in some sort of like tomb, and there were grave robbers, and the grave robbers came in and stole the rings, or attempting to steal the rings off her, but she woke up and she went on to have children. I know, great story. Anyway,
Great story. That's amazing.
I know. Anyway, but
Only in Ireland could that
about the
happen.
wake, it was just to make sure they had died. Anyway, it's very rich.
The culture around death here was just and I'm going to say was as opposed to is. I was really intimidated the first time I kind of experienced an Irish death the culture around death. The whole community comes out. The person dies. They're in the living room. The children are running round. There's great crack. It's fabulous. Then they move the coffin to the church, and that's called the removal. And then the community, the funerals have thousands of people just by knowing somebody. So I would go to the funeral of my friend's mum, like my colleague's mum, because it's a communal thing that you support everyone. The bit that got me was my husband's cousin was in a horrific crash when she was only 21 on the motorway, and it was the biggest funeral I'd ever seen in my life. Thousands upon thousands of people, and they all they all kind of go and comfort the family. And for me, I was like, I don't know if I could handle that, but that's about community. It's about community sharing the grief. And then you've got wailers as well. I mean, they're not called wailers for nothing. They, people that profession. So as Emma was saying, doulas and people that have been there around the transition from this to the next have been forever, and people that cover themselves in sackcloth and ashes, but the culture here around death was just phenomenal for me. So the whole community comes out and offers support to the family. Then the funeral happens, and then they have a month's mind mass after the person has been buried for a month, and they're buried and put in the ground usually within 3 days here in Ireland. I think the length of time in the UK that people have to wait for people to be put in the ground, it is a horrendous thing. It's horrendous psychologically for people to have to deal with that. So within 3 days, people are usually dead and buried. And then in a month's mind, it's usually more family. Then you've had a month to kind of observe, get used to, and it's a different vibration. It's very, very healthy. I think they have or used to have a very healthy attitude to death, as did those in the Caribbean. But most of the UK culture around death is not beneficial to those that have died or to those that are impacted by the death. That's what I would say. Yeah, but it's lovely.
Is that why Bob Marley's band was called the Wailers?
I've no idea. All I know is that when I came to Ireland, my mother-in-law said, "You might miss a wedding, but you'll never miss a funeral." And the crack is mighty at the funerals. It really is. And as I say, that it also brought home. And I think for me, this is one of the things that when someone was when my friend died, she was the most vivacious. I mean, she always wore colours. She just was vivacious and she was vibrant. And went to her, and she was in the coffin. And it really, really brings home that the body is a temple to be housed, to house the spirit. Because when someone dies, and I've been with people when they've died, you're sitting in a room, you can literally feel that energy dissipate. It's quite profound, and it's quite beautiful to be with people when they pass. And I've been blessed to be with people when they've had children too at the other stage, and that energy as well. When a birth comes, when a child actually comes through the birth canal, you don't have to be like just in the room. The energy is just phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. And having had all 4 of my children at home, and I'm going back 30 odd years, so women have been having children at home for a very long time. The first one, the system was not happy, but I didn't give a hoot, and I faced a lot of obstacles. And then I had the last one in Ireland, and there was other obstacles again, because it was the first time in Ireland I was having a baby at home. But that midwife, it was a private midwife, she says, we don't deliver the babies, we catch them. Unless there's an issue, we're only there to catch babies. And I just thought that was beautiful. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, my body has done wonders. And I think we need to honour that as well, both in life and death. The body, even though it is a temple. I've had 4 birth, four lives come through this body. Don't underestimate your body. It's just an amazing thing. And when your spirit is done with it, honor that and just enjoy. Have a great time.
Talking about catching babies. I was at a birth once where the midwife, I've told you this story before, I'm sure, but other people haven't heard it. The mum this was her 4th child, so she knew what she was doing. She was stood at the chest of drawers. She said, I'm not moving. That's it. This is where the baby's coming, and I'm staying here. So the dad was on one side, I was on the other. The midwife was at the business end, and she said, I'm going to catch the baby, and I'm going to pass her up to you, and you 2 are going to hold her while I deliver the placenta. And we went, okay. And we held this baby between us underneath the mum, and the baby reached, and mum had her nightdress on. Baby reached up and grabbed the nightdress for extra security, because she knew that we were not necessarily to be trusted with holding this life and not dropping her. So she said, all right, I'm hanging on. It was incredible. Anyway,
It's amazing being in a room with birth or death. They're 2 of the most amazing environments to find yourself. I remember asking my husband after I'd had the baby, I said, what did you see? What was it like? And I thought he was going to be like, oh, it was like I've just described it as amazing and everything else. He goes, and I was horrified, and I don't ask him again. I've never asked him again. And he turned around and he went, well, he says, this green shit came out of you, then this baby slid out of you, and you puke, and there was blood, and then there was water everywhere, and it slithered up your back, because I give birth on my like this, and I was like, was it not amazing then? But it was the colours and the textures, and he just described all of that stuff, and I just thought I didn't want to hear that.
He missed the spiritual bit.
It is pretty full on though, isn't it?
It is full on. You can't, when you're there, it is.
Well, it's down to earth, it's in there with, baby poo and sick, and it's just, life is messy.
Yeah, I have total expulsions as well. It comes out everywhere before the baby does. My midwife was sitting with me one day going, are you really good? It was chocolate, a Black Forest gatto. She was like, Helen, you know what sort of pregnancy, labours you have. Are you really going to eat that? And I was like, yes, I'm going to eat it. In between contractions, I was shoveling in this Black Forest gatto. And she was just like, oh no, because she knew that it was just going to go, every which way. The body was eliminating, and it was eliminating the baby as well. And she was like, I can't believe you're eating that, knowing what.
Okay, on that note, shall we have some Qigong from Robyn? Let me see if I can find that thing, if it's going to, I'm pressing screen share. Here we are. There she is. Now, where's the button? They've moved it. There it is. There it is. Okay. Relatively smooth so far. Now then, where's the button? Where's the start? Oh, for heaven's sake, there it is.
I got one.
Feet facing forward as much as possible. if they do come out to the sides, make sure your knees go in the same direction if you're going to do any knee bending. There's not a lot, but slight knee bending. Keeping the knees soft, keeping all the joints soft in the body. We don't stretch out to 100% in these practices. If you have got any conditions, any discomfort, pain anywhere in the joints or in the body, just please bring that into consideration when you're doing the movements. It's very gentle, but there may be, like raising the arms up might just cause some discomfort for some people if you've got any conditions. So let's just arrive into ourselves. All that lovely information, let it just be absorbed and just let it run through the body, allowing the mind to just fall still, connecting the mind with the body, because this is what these practices are about as well. Mind and body connection. And breathe. Just allowing sensations to gently fall down through the body to the feet. Just opening the toes, lifting the toes up gently and then planting them back down. Lifting the heels, planting them back down. Feeling the insides and the outsides of the feet. And then that little point underneath the balls of the feet, the bubbling spring, the kidney 1 point. Getting a sense of connecting to that lovely energy from the earth. Grounding, sinking, connecting, sending your energetic roots down. Just like a big, strong oak tree. Feeling a sense of balance, support, and safety. So important to feel them qualities. Make sure the weight's evenly distributed on each side as much as possible. And then just allowing that energy to seep up through the roots, through the feet, through the legs, through the channels in the body. And just getting a sense of every time you breathe in, you're breathing in more of that lovely energy. Every time you breathe out, you're softening into your body. Softening areas that might feel a bit tense, a bit stiff. Getting that sense of connection to yourself, to your body. And just noticing how you're feeling as well. Acknowledging how you're feeling. And then letting that energy come up through the spine, down through the shoulders, the arms to the fingertips, and just wiggle your fingertips a little bit. Acknowledging your fingers. And then just allowing that energy to come up through to the crown of the head and getting a sense of connection to the sky. Now I've put a bright yellow top on this morning because it's been pretty grey here for the last few days. And I just wanted to brighten myself up. And let's just imagine that we're connecting to that beautiful radiant sun from the crown of the head. Remember that the sun is there. We might not always see it. It's always there. And there's a saying, if you can't see the sunshine, let's create our own sunshine. So let's do that now. Just imagine a beautiful radiant sun above the head. And cascading down beautiful, nourishing sunbeams. Lovely energy, light energy, soothing, softening, replenishing, nourishing, easing away any tension there might be in the scalp, the forehead, the facial muscles, the jaw, going down through the front of the body, the back of the body, the left and right sides of the body, and down through the centre. So just imagine we're fully immersing in these sunbeams. And I like to imagine these sunbeams smiling. So, when I imagine the sunbeam smiling, I smile. You bring that smile, that inner smile, to your body, to your mind, to your spirit. And it can help to just lift the mood, because the weather can affect our mood, of course. And some people it affects quite badly. So the more that we can create our own sunshine, the more we can light ourselves up, fill ourselves up with a radiant sun. Imagine absorbing that nourishing vitamin D into the bones, warming the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments. And then imagine the light going into the heart. And again, imagine like a beautiful sun at the heart centre, smiling. And just let that smiling, sunny energy go to all the other organs in the body, nourishing all the other organs, lighting them up. And imagine all your organs now smiling. Smile at all your organs. Imagine them smiling back to you because you're looking after them, you're giving them some attention. And then come back to your heart energy. The heart is associated to summer in Chinese medicine, the fire energy, the yang energy, but it's all about balancing. So we haven't got excess of an energy, just balancing them energies out. Doing something that brings you joy, laughter, lightening the heart energy, a good comedy, a good belly laugh. And let that light shine out. Imagine that sunlight shining out to everybody. Everybody on this session now and going out further. Connecting to other people. Your friends, neighbours, family, people in the town, and going out further. In the country, across the seas, to animals, all living beings. Imagine the light from your heart connecting with everything in the world, in the universe. And then bring it back to yourself. Always bring it back to yourself to replenish yourself. Fill your own cup. The more you can fill your cup up with light, with nourishment, good food, good company, the more we can support ourselves, nourish ourselves, replenish ourselves, the more light we can absorb, the more light, love, blessings we can give out to others. So fill yourself up first. And this is just one practice you can do. There's lots of other practices. Bring it back to your heart, and then just bringing your hands to your heart. And we're just going to open up from the heart, bringing the hands forward. And then stretching out to the sides, pushing out, just turn your head to one side. Don't let your arms go above the shoulders. Sending that heart energy down to the hands and just gently turning the head to have a little stretch out there. And then let's gather that energy, bring it back to our own heart. So we're going to breathe in and open, turn your head to the opposite side, push through, sending that energy and blocking the meridians. Looking at your little pinky finger, your little finger to the heart. The heart meridian goes to the inside of the small finger. And then let's breathe in, bring it back to our heart. And then let's have a little shake out. Let's get some movement going now. So shaking can release tension. It can also release excess chi. We don't want too much chi, of course, because it can cause what we call chi deviations. They can get blocked. So it's about, again, balance. And if you feel like you've got a lot of energy, like agitation, frustration, anger, you might just want to discharge that energy. Have a little shake out, go for a walk, a brisk walk. Breathing in and out, have some cleansing breaths. Let's do that now. Breathing in through the nose, and then make the heart sound, the The sound is so healing, as we know. Releasing stagnation through the tissues, shake out through the feet. And again, let's breathe in. And sometimes I think, what do the neighbours think when I'm making these noises? And that just makes me laugh. So again, laughter, best medicine. Right, let's rub the hands together now. As Kerry said, let's stimulate the energy. Get the energy moving. Get the hands warm. And then just bringing your hands to the sides of the body. Notice how the hands feel. You might feel tingly, warm, cool. And then with your feet about shoulder width apart, just like I said before, just softening the knees, tailbone down, coming up from the crown of the head, opening the shoulders. And then we're going to do a movement from Tai Chi, Qigong, Shibashi set 2, which is a really good movement to do by itself because it activates all the channels in the body, gets the blood and the chi flowing, the fluids. And it also activates the 3 dantians, the lower dantian, middle dantian, upper dantian, 3 energy centers. So just softening the fingers pointing down. We do a breath in through the nose. It's a very gentle breath in and a very gentle breath out through the mouth. I know all the rest of the time it's advised to nose breathe. But this one, we don't want it to be too tonifying. We want it to be harmonizing. So we're not dispersing too much chi, but we're not building up too much chi in the body as well. It's a harmonizing breath. So we're going to breathe in gently through the nose, whilst at the same time just raising the arms. Don't lift the shoulders up, just let the shoulders drop down. Imagine your shoulder blades dropping down at the back. And then we're pushing the palms out to the sides and gently bending the knees as we go down, if that's comfortable for your knees. Then we rise up again, breathing in gently. Now we want to imagine that you're pushing the clouds away above the head and allowing that light to cascade down as we breathe out. Now this helps, this is a beginning form, so it helps to regulate the breath with the movement. Because when you combine the movement with the breath, that's when you're doing Qigong. Synchronizing the breath, movement and posture all together. That's Qigong. Cultivating the chi and circulating the chi. Breathing in gently, breathe out gently, pushing out into the way chi, your energy field, and then down. If you find that your knees are collapsing in, just imagine that you've got a ball there, a nice soft ball, just pushing the knees away gently, putting the weight on the outer edges of the feet if you do find that your knees are collapsing inwards. It's quite common for the knees to collapse inwards, but we don't want to make a kink in the chi. So pushing out. Do one more of these. Breathing in, absorbing that lovely energy all the way through the channels to the tips of the fingers, the crown of the head, and then breathing out. Allowing the arms to just fall to the sides of the body. And then we're going to honour the moon. We've just had the full moon. We're still in the energy of the full moon. So we're just going to turn to the side, whilst at the same time, imagine that you're gathering the full moon, come back to the centre, and then bringing that moon energy down through the body. Again, just softening the knees as you go down. You're holding the moon just underneath the navel, so you're filling your lower dantian up. And then we turn to the opposite side, gather up the moon. This is another movement from set 2, Shibashi. Gathering the moon and sinking the moon through the body, filling up through the channels. And then turn to the side again, gathering the moon. Turn to centre. Bring that moon energy down, calming, cooling. So this is like the yin energy. We've got the yin energy of the moon, the calming, cooling energy. And we've just done the sun, of course. Now, this movement as well is very good for hot flushes. It helps to balance the hormones, helps to reduce heat. So it's a good one to do if you do have anything like that, or you're just feeling hot. Imagine the beautiful, calming, cooling energy of the moon coming down, filling up the lower dantian, and then turning to the side again, gathering. And with the twisting actions as well, twisting from the waist and the hips, we're strengthening the kidneys as well. A little twist, little squeezing of the kidneys. So turn, gather, breathing in gently as you come up. Breathe out very gently as you go down, absorbing that beautiful energy of the moon. Just do one more on each side. Last one, breathing in. Turn to the centre, breathe out. And then just letting the hands go down, releasing any excess chi through the feet into the earth. Gently bring your feet together. One last movement, raising the arms. Let's honour the moon and the sun, bringing in the yin and yang, gathering both together. Breathe out as you come down through the centre, back to your heart, and just give yourselves a bow. Thank you for joining and have a beautiful day, a beautiful sunny day. Thank you. Give yourselves a clap.
Oh, I miss Robyn. She is a ray of sunshine.
That was a wonderful one, isn't it?
It was so
Oh.
lovely. I remember that one. And then when I found the video yesterday in our collection and she was dressed in yellow, and I just thought, oh, we do need sunshine in our lives. And there she was. Amazing. What a lovely morning. Unfortunately, Emma had to go, but she is
I
phenomenal.
see that there. I have her, she's got her email in the chat. Is that what you meant, Emily? Or do you want the website? Because I have the website as well somewhere.
Yeah, I've given Emily the website. And all the information should be on there.
Yeah, here it. You've put the website in the chat, have you?
Yes, Emma did. Yeah, everything's in there.
That was her email, though, right?
No, right to the top. If you scroll right to the top.
Oh, to the top. Okay. Okay. People have to scroll. Yes, it's a tricky one, that one.
I was amazed by Emma, and hopefully she'll be talking to us and the PHA again soon.
Yes,
Did you have anything else to add? I know you had lots of information to share this morning.
No, that was just so beautiful and perfect. There's nothing else to say. I think that's done. We're done.
Brilliant.
Can I Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
I came in late, so I think I might have missed her website address. You know how you don't catch it all in the chat if you come in a bit late.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll post it right now because I'm looking at it.
Thank you so much.
Well, it'll definitely be in the YouTube
Okay.
description
Thank
as
you.
well. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. You only get to see the
Yeah, if
things
you-
that were posted after you joined.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, I've contributed something finally.
thank you, Kath. That's brilliant. That's
It is.
really good to know. I didn't realize.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's in there now, but it will, yes, for anybody that's joined and the chat isn't there, obviously everything will be in the YouTube description. Everything June has spoken about, all the links, books, and the links for Emma are there as well. And Jean-Marc's contact details too. So thank you everybody for joining this morning, and thank you to Emma who came specially for this morning's session. Thank you for everybody that spoke. And if you found us, thank you for finding us on YouTube, Rumble, and on behalf of the People's Health Alliance, have a wonderful Wellbeing Wednesday, and we will see you very soon. Goodbye.